Sheepadoodle.
I have a couple Maltese poodles, and they're really delightful.
They're
Poodles
loud.
are they're loud, and poodles are so smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're wicked smart. They open doors and drive cars.
They're like smart to an almost problematic extent where you're
They,
like,
they just sit there and they look at you.
yeah.
Look at Maele's necklace.
You have on the necklace?
Oh, look at
Yeah.
that.
Look, there it is.
I love
Got it for
that.
me for Christmas. So
Oh,
Do you
that's
wear
so
that every once in a while?
I all the time. It matches so perfect with everything.
yeah.
That's the one I got you?
Yeah.
Alrighty,
That's so
Milo,
cool.
I think you can get going here.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Ana Gomez is an award-winning author and the Global Chief Financial Officer for Mischief and No Fixed Address, a consolidated group of advertising agencies. She was recently selected for the 2020 Heroes Women Role Model Executives list, which recognizes 100 women making strides to increase gender diversity in business. As well as being an advocate for racial and gender equity in both the workplace and the world, Ana is known for delighting audiences with stories about real life, flawed characters, and the saving grace of unconditional love. Kristoffer Polaha is an actor, author, and screenwriter. You might know him from his starring role in the critically acclaimed series Life Unexpected, multi-season roles on AMC's Mad Men and ABC's Castle, or from appearing in Jurassic World Dominion and opposite Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman 1984. With Ana, he co-authored the first From Kona with Love book Moments Like This, and we are glad to have him here today to celebrate the second book, Where the Sun Rises. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad to have both of you here. And I'm going to open up with just asking you to describe in your own words what Where the Sun Rises is about.
Hi, Milo. First off, thank you for having us today. And compared to your bio, Ana, I sound like it's like Mad Men, Life Would Expect. Yours is equity in the workplace and champion of the pretty impressive. I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah.
Ana, ladies first, would you like to tell our listeners
Sure.
what the book's about?
Thank you for having us, Milo. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Where the Sun Rises is a story of young love and hope and redemption and family. It's a story of characters we've come to know and love in moments like this.
And I'll only add that it's also about two broken people who find healing and redemption through love.
I love to hear that. And that actually leads me pretty naturally to the second question, and the question that I really had in mind a lot while I was reading this book, which is we have these two leads who are just both really headstrong, both really filled with personality and living in their own worlds so like presently and deeply. And they're drawn magnetically to each other. What do you think it is that brings Maele and Adam together?
It's a great question.
So your questions are so profound.
Really good questions. I'm already like, this is a real conversation about a book we wrote.
Yes.
I think that, Ana, do you mind if I
No, go ahead.
I think that in life, we find ourselves compelled at times to someone, and it's inexplicable. And it's one of those things where you almost feel divine interference, or it's literally when you feel the universe moving heaven and earth to bring you into a relationship with this other person. And Ana and I decided very early on what we wanted to tell was a story about two people who were destined to be together, and that they knew each other when they were young and pure and innocent and the full versions of themselves. And we're meeting them here when they're the broken sort of ghosts of who they were and promise of who they'll become. And I feel, and we didn't want to do is give any pat answers. And so I feel like we set them up for possibly fate to continue to push them on. I feel like Ana froze. I feel like Ana froze.
Oh, you're right. Anna, can you hear us? Looks like Anna's having a little bit of technical difficulty, but it seems like she's going to go ahead and reload that. In the meantime, Kristoffer, actually, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And that is whether folks who've read the book will know that Adam works in Hollywood writing and kind of is very much immersed in that world. And I'd love to know, like, how that corresponds to your experience in Hollywood making movies, and whether you drew on that for him.
He is a page out of my own book. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go through his LA journey, like Katsuya is my favorite restaurant in the whole world.
Yeah.
I used to take my son to westward of Zuma almost every morning, and we would draw little taxi cabs in the sand, he and I. So I know that beach, I know that break.
Yeah.
We just found those horses in the Hollywood Hills that you can go right up and see the Hollywood sign on. And that drive that takes you up there is literally, neighborhood drive. And so I know it well.
Wow.
So I wanted to take readers through my Los Angeles, which was almost a nice way for me personally, to kind of cement in print the last 20 years of my life. And then as far as his journey in Hollywood, obviously was an actor. He obviously is a screenwriter wanting to be director, but there was enough parallel there where it was easy for me to sort of, flesh out his world.
Yeah. That's, and you can feel.
Did we lose Anna? I'm worried.
Yeah. Let's
see if she comes back.
Yeah, give her a little text maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, Los Angeles is so alive in the way you describe it. Like, you can almost picture a street map of like where you're driving, and where you're going.
Good. Yeah, that was the goal.
But I can go ahead and reach out to Anna here. Make sure that she is.
I just texted her too.
Right on. And I'm guessing she'll be coming back around pretty shortly. In the meantime, I am going to say to anyone in the audience right now, we have both a chat and a Q&A. If you have any questions, put those in the Q&A. And if you're just chatting and talking, go ahead and put that in the chat. Hello, welcome back, Anna. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. So sorry.
No
This is a
worries.
computer. The other one just completely died.
Oh no. Oh, what a bummer. Well, I'm glad that you're back with us. And I have another.
Answer the question.
Oh yeah, he did awesome.
I feel like it was a pretty good answer. And then we did a little LA question as well. We got a twofer out of it.
Yeah.
Great.
I have another both character and location based question for both of you, which is Hawaii feels so present in this book that it almost feels like it's another character. And I would love to hear you talk about kind of how that sense of place has shaped this series, and especially has shaped Where the Sun Rises.
So we wrote Moments, which was the first book, and we knew that the setting was going to be in Hawaii, and we knew that we wanted to have a 5-part series, and we also decided that we would have it in different islands in Hawaii. And so the first book being in Oahu, we knew we wanted the second book to be set in Kauai. So it was more the setting that kind of attracted us to the second story first, and then I think the way that we set it up was, we picked the island. It just called to us. Kauai is very beautiful, as you know, and it's called the Garden Island. There's all these like forests and aside from beaches, the rainforests and just mountains. And so we thought that it was very, first of all, cinematic in the sense, beautiful and scenic. It was just a perfect backdrop for somebody like Maele, who was a surfer. So that's kind of how we got there. Did I answer the question?
Absolutely. I'm wondering, like, was she a surfer before you picked the location, and like the location came after like the kind of deciding what her character was, or did you kind of like find her and then?
Well, we knew that Maele was going to be the girl that we wanted to write about when we wrote Moments, and that happened pretty early.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote a scene in the coffee shop, and Maele did this little twirl, and she had she had this sort of dancer, and all of a sudden she just jumped off the page to me
Yeah.
as co-author. And I was like, ooh, I like her. And then Anna had kind of a, I think it's fair to say, like a little creative crush on Adam, because when I wrote Adam on the couch and did this thing, and I was like, I like him. I just like him. How do we get them together? And so then all of a
Nice.
sudden we had this idea of like, and Kauai, you know, we know the islands that we want to write about, and Kauai is rugged and Kauai is untamed. And one of the beautiful things about Kauai is that it's a secret. Everything is a secret. And everybody who lives on the island, if there's an amazing break, they want it to stay a secret. So it's like secret beach here, secret beach there. And it's the only island with rivers on it and waterfalls. So it's this really unique place that's rugged and untamed. And I think that Adam is rugged and untamed. And in a way, Maele's spirit is very rugged and untamed. So they, you know, that it fits. It's a fitting place for them in that island. And I think it was it was kind of an easy actual pairing. You know, we thought about it for about 2 seconds and we made the decision pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the way the place brings them together and like
100% dictates, you know, their journey. And wait till you read book 3. Book 3 takes place on a whole other island, and it's absolutely like a character and a part of their story. And which I think what we've gotten away from, you know, as Europeans, you know, we came into land and we took over land and we made land our own. And those islands are so unique because, you know, Captain Cook was eaten. Like when the Europeans showed up, islanders were like, you look like food, brother. And so I think what you have is this culture of people that have lived on these islands for so long. And there's such a rich culture, and there's such a rich tapestry. And what's amazing about it is that there were Filipinos that were brought over very, very early. There were Chinese people that were brought over very early, Japanese people brought over, and Europeans. And so you've got these it's a very unique mixing pot that's also managed to maintain its identity that hasn't been sort of, you know, shifted by the cultural tides over time. It's an interesting place, and it's a fecund environment to tell stories from.
Yeah, and I think, Milo, you brought up a good point where the islands itself lend to a story. Like they can stand alone in the book, like just the way that they're a backdrop, but also they're the main focus of the book, kind of, you know, with side by side with the characters.
And it's a place where everybody wants to go. There's not a person who doesn't want to go to Hawaii or hasn't, like, either you've been to Hawaii and you're like, oh, I remember my trip to Hawaii, or you want to go. And then when you find out, because a lot of young people think Hawaii, and then also you're like, wait, there's Oahu and there's Kauai and there's Maui and there's Molokai and there's all these other islands. And hold on, Hawaii's the big island. And wait, they're all different and they all have different, like you can ski and you can, I mean, it's crazy. They're really diverse. And the minute they stop growing, they start dying, which is fascinating. So the minute those volcanoes stop erupting, Hawaii is still expanding, Hawaii is still growing, but Kauai is dormant now. And so it's starting to fade off into the ocean again. And it's going to, over time, find its way back under the sea.
Wow.
And there's something really romantic and beautiful about the ephemeral nature of those islands and how they are volcanic and they are fire and they are, you know, and personally, and I don't think I've ever told you this, my family took me on vacation there when I was a boy, around the age of 8. And then I went back again when I was 15. And I sang karaoke. And I happened to be in a room filled with Japanese, I guess they were, you know, there was they were business folks, and they were at this huge table. They're all from Japan. And I sang My Way from Frank Sinatra. And I got this standing ovation. And they asked me to come over to their table, and they gave me a square glass of sake. And my parents were like, yeah, enjoy it. And I drank sake. And it was the first time where I felt the power of, like, I think I can actually be an actor. I think I have like enough power or charisma or authority or whatever it takes to stand up in front of people and entertain them and be and hold that space. And that happened on Hawaii. And then, of course, you know, my first show was filmed in Hawaii. So for me, Hawaii has this weird, like, I don't go there often, I mean, everyone thinks I'm from there because of my last name, Polaha, but like, it's just, I'm tied to it in this weird way. I'm tied to those islands. I'm tied to that energy.
This is a bit of a weird question. Is it a Czech name?
It is. Yeah. Good on you, Milo.
I thought it might be. My family's
It's actually
Hungarian, so.
Slovak, if you want to get really specific.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like both in the books and in your life, there's this just magnetic kind of, and maybe it is sort of the meeting of like very different forces. And that's what I see in Adam and Maele as well, for sure. And I'm kind of just circling back to when you mentioned kind of when Kristoffer, you were fascinated by Maele, and Anna, you were fascinated by Adam. You know, co-authoring is it's such a different creative experience from writing on one's own. And I'm wondering like what it typically looked like for you to work together on this book. Did you have like, was one of you writing from one character's perspective and someone else writing from another? Were you kind of mixing and matching? Just what was that like for you?
I think it was both. We started out writing, I think we started the book out, remember, Chris, we had just finished Moments, and I had written the first chapter and I sent it to you. And that was actually Adam when he was waking up at the hotel. And then it defined the way that we wrote this book, because it spurred Chris to just write the second chapter. And we were going back and forth. At first it was, okay, so now you write Adam, because Adam's from LA and, Chris lives there. And so he kind of has all the day-to-day details of the place. And I mean, he named touristy places, non-touristy places. I mean, he had that expertise on that end. And I was writing Maele, and it was that way for a while. But then again, life would happen, and one of us would not be writing as fast as the other, or the other one didn't have time to write. So that other person would pick up where we leave off. So it started out as mainly Adam, and it was mainly our points of view. And if you look at the story, the one beautiful thing that I love about this book is that there's also a lot of comparisons and juxtapositions between rich and poor. And so we made that, right? So he would write a chapter of like Adam going somewhere, and then I would write a chapter of like what it looked like from Maele's perspective, the watch, the dress, different things, right?
Which was something, Anna, that you picked up on early on, because I remember I turned in a chapter about a watch, and you were like, I'm going to do this, and all of a sudden we started juxtaposing, which was a great idea, because what we wanted to do was a day in the life of Adam and Maele. The book got turned. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like we started in LA, and it was like it was going to be 2 weeks before the wedding, and those 2 weeks were going to coincide for Adam and Maele, and we were going to watch their lives, and then they were going to meet at the wedding, and then we flipped it anyway. So go ahead. Sorry, because it was your idea. It was a great idea.
So that I mean, that's part of the story too, is that we started out that way, but we didn't end up that way. I mean, we ended up just whoever had time to write would write, and then we would just exchange. And there were times when he would just go over what I had already written and make modifications. I would do the same on his end. So there's no easy answer. I think it was both. I think we were so embedded in the characters that we were able to pick up from each other what we wanted the character to be, how to develop the character, and what the salient points of their relationship would be. We'd write about the waterfall, and then he would pick up and write, just kind of flow it through. And I think the first thing that we agreed on was the meet cute. I know we always talk about the meet cute, and it was always like, how are they going to meet, And I think the fact that they had met before came out organically for us. It didn't start out that way.
Right. It didn't.
It didn't. It didn't start out that they had already seen each other. And then it's just developed that way because of the way that the chemistry and the way they were pulled together. There was that underlying current that said, hey, you know what? I've seen you before. And it made it stronger, I think. So it's a good thing we did that. But yeah.
Yeah, there's this kind.
That's how I answered your question.
No, it's phenomenal, and it's kind of wonderful to have this whimsical, like, I've seen you before, like, was it in a dream? Are you even still alive? Kind of relationship with someone, and then to find them again as an adult. And I'm really interested in what you were saying about how, Maele comes from a working class family. Adam comes from enormous wealth. And I'm curious about how you were thinking about that, and if you thought about that as an impediment to their relationship, and kind of as you get towards the end of the book, you see their kind of positions in the world shifting, and how tell me about your thoughts on that and their relationship with class and each other.
Well, class, one of the reasons why I love working with Anna is that that's something that Anna, it's a specialty for Anna. Like, she loves digging into class, into social structure. And that might have something to do with the fact that she's Filipino and that she comes from a culture, and she's even said this before, where there's very distinctive classes that are still set up. And I think that we coupled that with, they're also spiritually misaligned. So you have Maele, who's very spiritually in tune with her version of God, and she knows who she believes in, and she's living this life according to what she believes. We wanted to create a character that wasn't your sort of typical Christian, that you see in a lot of pop culture today, which are usually, provincial and bigoted and kind of, they're always the party poopers, and you see it all the time. You're like, all right, we get that character. It's become a stereotype. And we wanted to create a girl who was just, had really amazing morals and values, and was on fire in her faith, but also is just cool as shit, and somebody that you would want to hang out with, and is sexy, and is a woman, and is feeling all of the feelings of wanting to connect with somebody, and having those be innocent, and having lived a life striving for purity, having those, like, all of a sudden that be challenged for the first time in a real way, where she was like, oh, this is actually, it's been easy for me to be pure because I've never really felt the feelings that I'm feeling before. And that was also fun to explore. And meanwhile, you've got Adam, who is so consumed with his own demons, where he is just ripped to shreds with jealousy and insecurity, and this feeling of having to become a king of his own empire, but it's a rotten empire, and he's addicted to drugs and alcohol and sex, and he knows how to use people like objects and not, and I think that when these two things clash, it's class. She's poor, he's uber rich, but she is uber rich and he is uber poor. And then you see this thing start to balance out as the stories unfolds. And yeah, it's cool. I mean, and I think that love can do that for people. I think in real life, I think when you meet people that love you in the right way, it also balances out your life in that same way,
Yeah, totally agree. And we have kids that their age. Well, Chris's kids almost their age. I have kids past that age, but we've all been through that. The pressures of keeping up and being cool, and giving up your dreams for something or someone, and all those decisions that you have to make at that age. It was really fun to write about, because we were front and center of that, or Chris will be soon, and I've been there. So.
And we also both experienced in our life, like, do you choose love or a career? And what happens if you sacrifice your career for love? Or what happens if you sacrifice love for your career? Like, what, and these two people are asking, they're both in the throes of a very serious question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm actually, I had this question on my mind because Maele's family is a little skeptical about Adam at a lot of points. And I'm wondering, kind of as parents of kids around that age, if you heard that your kid was with an Adam, or if your kid was an Adam and you heard they were with a Maele, have you ever read this as a parent and gone back over what you've written and thought, like, as a mom, as a dad, here's the perspective I'm taking? Or are you just so deeply rooted in the main character's perspectives that you're like, mom and dad can wait?
Yeah. I was always mom and dad can wait. I was so involved. But yeah, if Maele showed up with an Adam in my house, I'd be very disappointed. Well, the opposite would be true, though. If a Maele showed up in my house as an Adam's dad, I'd be stoked. I'd be like, good for you.
Like, holy moly.
Why did that happen? How is that happening to you?
Yeah, exactly. So I think and then from my perspective, again, like coming from a different culture, you were told who to marry, who to go out with, what to be when you grew up and all these things. And there's a lot of pressure attached to that. So, it's always good to write a story where people are strong enough to make choices, because as you get older, you basically have to account for everything you do. There's a consequence and a benefit to everything that you decide to do. And I think we wrote about that very well. And I think I'm proudest of this book because it's a realistic outcome. It's a realistic outcome where people really have to grow and grow out of it, grow into it. And there's a lot of catharsis and change that happens. And sometimes you can't capture that in one book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to hear you speak as well to the kind of spiritual depth of this story, because it's about love, but it's also about like finding meaning, facing some of the most difficult things life can possibly throw at a person, and what inspired you to take this particular approach to romance, and like just tell me more about that kind of journey they go on.
I'll let Chris talk to that, but I think one thing I want to point out is that the reason why people ask us, did we ever have a misunderstanding or a disagreement on the book or the storyline? I think one reason why we are so in tune with the stories that we write is because we have more or less the same, just spiritual, I don't know, makeup, beliefs. So, I think that's one thing.
We run on a very similar frequency too, artistically. I mean, I think that Milo, can you just repeat your question, because I had the answer and then I was about to go on a tangent, but it was just saying, but I wanted to get to your answer too.
No, absolutely. I'm just wondering about like approaching romance from a point of spiritual depth and character growth and morality.
Well, here is the quick answer to that. We wrote moments like this, and we wanted to write an escapist, frothy frolic of a book. We didn't want it to be deep. We didn't want it to be too complex. We wanted to we were in the middle of the pandemic. People were dying all over the world, and we were like, let's write a book that people can just escape into. And when we had done that, we knew that we were going to be sort of at a crossroads in our series from Kona with Love, and we knew that we were either going to write 5 of those, we were just going to repeat the formula, or we were going to change it up. And I think Anna and I both were hungry, to prove to ourselves that we could do it. We also just knew that we wanted the series to have a deeper bottom and to go deeper and to have a greater depth and breadth. And we wanted to expand the universe in a massive way. And I think we accomplished it. And already with book 3, we're pushing it into like, we're pushing it, that we're pushing time and space, we're pushing place. So we really did always have the objective to create a fully formed universe. And I think that meant more than just, pink bikinis on a beach.
I think you said you used the perfect line. You said to me that we're going to ask our readers to invest more in every book.
Yeah.
So, the first one, everyone loved it. It was for the time. It was the right book, best book for the time. And then the second book, we're like, you know what? Let's ask our readers to invest more, to get more invested in the characters, to get more invested in the outcome of the story and the lessons. So I think that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just a tiny pivot. I want to talk about surfing because surfing is a massive part of this book. I want to know if either of you have surfed, and I also want to know kind of what inspired that and what the unique aspects are of the place and the people and the sport that brought this all together, because it really, like, the character of Maele is undeniably,
she's a badass, man.
She's totally a badass. Yes, absolutely. And I just love to hear about how that drew you.
I just talked. You want to hit this one, Anna?
No. No, Chris
I mean-
has surfed. Like, I am the least athletic person in the whole world. All I do is run. That's all I can do. So Chris is the one that has surfed. He's got experience in that. Yeah, and to me, the reason why I wanted to go with the surfing is because it was just really beautiful. The island is beautiful. The water was beautiful. Cinematically, in my head, it would have just been so great to have those scenes that she had in the water.
Yeah.
We also knew that Maele had broken her neck, because if you read Moments, she does this little thing that she rubs the back of her neck. And so we knew that she broke her neck surfing, which is the one fear as a parent when your kids want to start surfing. Like, every parent's like, they're going to break their neck. They could break their neck. And you just get worried about that. And I actually had a friend who, she didn't break it surfing, but she was a water girl, and she dove into a pool and she cracked her neck. And the way that she is brought out of the water is how Maele is brought out. Like, we used, real life stuff. The other thing is that Anna is such an expert at studying and doing deep dives of information, and she does this intense research. So she started pulling out all these, like all of a sudden, the waves and where the contests were, and like it became, for me, I was like, great, go for it, you got it.
And she broke her C7 vertebrae.
Yeah, like she knew like all of that.
Like, all that stuff was like all research. And yeah, but I mean, the surfing part, it was just a natural piece of that story. It was just, I think it was the island, it was the waves, it was just how beautiful it would have been if somebody was just like right on the water.
And you know what's crazy, Milo, is that so we know where the story is going. Like, we know how it's going to end. And we knew specifically the necklace that Anna's wearing right now. We knew that the necklace was this through line, and we wanted this thing to play out. And we knew A, B, and C, but we didn't know how A was going to get to B. We didn't know how B was going to get to C. We just knew that. So even that wave that Maele rides, that was an empty chapter. It was like, okay, and we just start writing. And honestly, it was like one chapter, and then off it goes to the next person, and then that chapter's finished. And so you've got this ebb and flow that is happening in the moment. And then once you read it, we add information about the surfing in a chapter even after that. So it's like all of a sudden we tell the story. And if you watch the way that information is unfolded, it's interesting because we're writing it in real time, and we're not saying, no, we're not going to do that. Let's cancel that. We're going to do this. What we're saying is, yes, perfect. Now we're going to build from that. We're going to go to this chapter. And they're like, oh, we need to add a piece back here. So we're going to add that here. And we're going to help flesh the story out. And then we're going to move on to the next thing. So I just, and for the example of that is how there was a rainbow, and how there was a shark in the water, and how it was 20 feet high. And like, we were able to describe the wave in real time, and then we were able to describe it in a picture, and we were able to set and then all of a sudden it became very natural. Like, after that, we were like, she goes all the way. Like, she's going to be the world champion. And so then all of a sudden, Aviator Nation comes into picture, and she gets sponsorships, and now she's on a talk show, and none of that was planned. It all happened because it was happening to Maele in real time. And we're like, well, what happened next? Well, I mean, she would win in the, it's all muscle memory. Yeah. So it was really, it's a really organic, fun way to work. It's a wonderful collaboration.
I love the kind of unique structure, like how it's almost like onomatopoeia, where like the structure of the book kind of is mimicking what's happening, which I think is lovely.
I mean, there are times we obsess about them. I mean, we're walking, riding, running, taking a shower, doing whatever, and they're just there. And then like these things come up, and then we text each other like, hey, she should do this, or like, what baseball cap is she wearing? Like things like that. Remember I texted you like, what's her
what baseball? And what's crazy is we care, and all of a sudden I'll be like, well, she would be like, would she be Dodgers or would she be? And then and we would do the math on what hat would she have on?
She had didn't she have the Yankees?
I think she had the Yankees, and he was a Mets fan, and and
she got it for free. Like, she's not into baseball, but she got it for free or something.
Right. It's wild because and the pieces have to fit. So like you have to, so there's sanding that's done. So it's like, we'll write stuff and then we kind of shave it down. Like for 3, it's a little different type of collaboration this round, where it's going to be interesting because it's going to be like a big board, and then we're going to sand that thing down and add to it, and you know what I mean? Like it's just going to be a very different kind of thing. Whereas Sunrise was block by block, whereas moments like this was Anna had started the book, and I came on about 8 chapters in, and then I just started writing, certain little chapters and would feed them to Anna, and she was putting the book together as we were writing it. So in a very different way, like yeah.
It's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a quote that really kind of stuck with me from this book, and that I kind of found myself coming back to while reading it, which is, love makes you believe you can do anything. And this seems to be very, very true for both characters' development, and it seems like that kind of takes them both to places they might not have been able to go before, or might not have considered going before. So tell us more about how Maele and Adam kind of make each other braver and challenge each other and make each other grow as people.
I think they both came in with really great traumas, each separate and each different. And I think the fact that they were drawn together, and the fact that as the story progressed, you see how their fear, because of the love they have for each other, and it's not even just in words. I think it was palpable, the way that he cared enough about her to do little things and stop smoking, or just focus on her, and the way that she just gained her self-confidence because somebody like him was attracted to her. Like these little things that just added up together. I think that was really important to play out, because I think that's what really, when in life, when you meet someone, somebody just said this to me today, which is really off tangent, but really important, because I was in a meeting and somebody said, hey, you know what? I just found out you wrote blogs, and I read your blog. And the thing that I picked up from all your blog posts is the love you have for your family, and the love that your family has for you. And the fact that it's probably because the support of your family has allowed you to do all these things that you're doing, which is have a full-time career and write and all that. And that really struck me. And I think that's important for this question. I think you asked that for a reason. It's because really they felt the love that they weren't getting from others. She had a family that loved her so much. I mean, she had a family that loved her so much. He had a mom who loved him so much. The mom would do anything for him, even go against the dad, or be like kind of the buffer between Adam and his dad. But it was a different love that they were looking for. It was the love, I think it was mostly love, selfless love, and love that was not conditioned on anything,
right? Without expectation.
Yeah, like her reading his script, or him just like going with her in the water when she was afraid to go for the first time. Like those are the things that people do for you unexpectedly, that actually people don't think means a lot to you, but it means the world to you, because it kind of spurs you on.
I love that little thing where he's like, I know what I'm going to get you for Christmas. I'm going to let you read my script. And she's like, is that my Christmas present to you, or yours to me? Like, what? He's like, no, you don't have to read it now. I just mean, because it's a vulnerable thing to give. Like it's a vulnerable thing to give someone your art, to say, hey, what do you think of the thing that I just created?
Yeah. So it's all that love and support that you get,
Absolutely. I'm going to pretty soon turn it over to our audience Q&A. We've got a couple questions lined up, but first, I would love to know, first of all, whether we're going to find out what Adam and Maele's future holds. And second of all, what you think whether or not that's something we're going to get a glimpse into in upcoming books, what you think their future holds.
Milo, I love your enthusiasm. You ask awesome questions.
Thank you.
We know what's going to happen to Maele and Adam, and we know in what book. The readers will find out as well. And we had a phone call recently, and I called Anna and I said, what if I said, what if, and then I had this whole other thought, because it almost at this point, there's relationships, but there will be answers. That was so vague, and it had to be. So it's, you don't
I
want
almost
to
think it's better because it's like having an appetizer. You're like, I gotta go back for dinner. Like,
You're like, I'm coming in for the book.
Yeah. So Milo, you have to get the other books and have us on for every book until you find out what happens to them.
I think that's what we're gonna have to do because I gotta know. All right, looks like we have a couple questions here. First one I have is, this one is especially for Chris. And the question is, will you be playing Warren in your Moments Like This film?
The answer is yes. If we can get this thing made in the next like 2 years, otherwise I'm going to age out. I'll be playing the dad.
How awesome is that? That is so exciting and when are we looking at having this adapted for the silver screen?
Well, we have an amazing writer. Her name is Erin Brown Thomas, and she's already, literally almost done with the script, by the way, Anna. I got a text today, and she will be done within the week. And then she's going to read it, and then she's going to do a little notes pass, and then she'll bring it. She'll get it to us. But Aaron has been hired and has already adapted Moments Like This into a screenplay.
Oh, wow.
So we are all steam ahead. And then we have a producer named Michael Goldstein, and he has a production company called Basset Hound, which is going to line up with my production company, Product Productions. And Anna is a producer on the film as well. And we're going to make a movie. That
is so exciting.
Yeah, we're making a movie. It's going to be fun.
It's pretty awesome. That was from Tracy Dalton, by the way. Thank you, Tracy, for asking. And next I have from Stephanie Young. What are your favorite moments you wrote about and Where the Sun Rises?
That's going to you, Anna.
The end. Yeah. And I think every surfing scene I loved, and I loved all of them, actually. I think you know what? I think the favorite one is the waterfall one. It was just written so.
Picks the flower and it rains.
Yeah.
That waterfall one?
Yeah. And she realizes she's in love with him.
Yeah.
How about you, Chris?
That wave in Fiji that she hits, where it's that heavy wave, and there's the whole thing. It's Fiji, right? In heavy wave, in her part.
Is that the one in Yeah, I think she's in Fiji, or is she in Brazil?
Well, I know she's in Brazil, but I think it's the Fiji where I know the wave is in Fiji. And I can't remember if we put it in Brazil, if you put it in Brazil or not. But anyway, that
Why
for
was
some
it
reason,
your favorite?
that because it's just so like for me, it's one of those moments that's so clear. Like I see it when I read it, I see it. But I also love in the book, I love September and October and December.
Yes.
Those 3 chapters, to me, it's this underwater world that Adam descends into. And it was just so much fun to
Right.
to write.
But it also, I think that was so profound because it really showed Adam's changing. Mm-hmm. Every chapter.
And I'll read it because it's one of those really delightful, surprising things that happens when you write a book like this.
But don't give spoilers because some people haven't read it.
No, I won't. He says right here. So Adam spends, all this time doing something. For the people who haven't read it. For those of you who've read it, you know what Adam has done. For those of you who haven't, Adam's done something. And Adam saw his reflection in the truck window. His eyes were white and bright, his skin tanned and made perfect. His hair was long. He'd grown a beard. On the outside, his body was in perfect shape. And on the inside, his soul was at peace. And that happened like it was a cool thing that we were able to tie in. So it's just that whole thing. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it was fun too. I'm going to interrupt this, but it was
go ahead.
Because they both separately found their own peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's an anti-romance novel, to be really honest with you. There's no sex. There's do they kiss? They kiss.
Oh, they get a couple kisses in. Don't worry, folks. There's a couple kisses.
And what I think is we wanted to write a story that that because we're culturally we're in this place and time where individuals, it doesn't matter, you know, boy, girl, the whole, any of that stuff, like it's individuals need to have agency for themselves. And this old idea of it takes a man to make a, you know what I mean? Like, or it takes a certain type of woman to make a, like, I think what we're doing is telling stories about these two people who are individually both powerhouses in their own right, and they're equals. And Maele brings as much to the table as Adam brings. And it erases this line of class because he's got this mountain of money he has access to and she has none. But there's this equalization that happens because she is a thoroughbred and she's a champion and she's all of these things. And so there's this equality that takes place that, you know, we wanted to make sure that was all the way through, and that that insists on a certain, like that insists on certain things happening still. Like dreams have to be followed in certain ways, and we'll see how far that all goes. But
Yeah.
I have next from Naomi Peterson, who's wondering, you both have mentioned in interviews that we're all introduced to all main characters for the 5 books in moments. When in the writing of that did you decide that Maele and Adam would be the main characters for Where the Sun Rises?
I think we tapped into that a little earlier. There was a scene that Anna wrote in Moments Like This where Maele did a little twirl and she just captured my attention. And I wanted to, like, all I wanted to know was, who is Maele? Let's write a book about Maele. And then I tapped in something about Adam, and Anna hit back later. She was like, okay, I got a little crush on Adam. And she's like, I just want, and we were like, all right, let's put them together. And it was close enough because it was family. We felt like it was a safe, like there was a couple contenders. Do you remember who was your closest contender for book 2 early on?
I think it was Appy.
Right. Yours was Appy. And I was, and is it Lonnie also in the copy
Yeah.
shop?
Yeah.
Because I was really interested in Lonnie and the plantation. And I was thinking, there was a moment where I was like, you know what, that would be an interesting thing to tell their story because it would be really, you know, but yeah, but Maele and her little necklace and her little, and if you read Moments Like This, you know, you'll see that she had the, you know, the neck, like already, like we knew that her neck was broken and all the little pieces already fit together.
Speaking of the necklace, if I'm not mistaken, Anna, you have a piece of jewelry with you now that kind of represents that necklace.
Yes. So this, I mean, I specifically wrote the descriptions in the book for this necklace.
Yeah.
We had a necklace in mind, right, Chris? We talked about a necklace, and then Chris found the perfect necklace. So we shifted all the descriptions and just made sure that it was this. And it's so pretty and special.
Did we shift it from Moments? Then we go back into Moments before it was.
Yeah, we did. We shifted it in Moments.
Moments.
It was silver and it was this, and then you found this, and it's like, okay, we shifted it.
Yeah, that was my Christmas present to you.
Yes.
2 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago. Very
That's a pretty awesome. That's delightful. And then I have
It's like costume jewelry, but it's pretty.
It's really pretty. Yeah.
I've got one from Andrea Pearman, who wants to know, will there be audiobooks?
Yes.
Yeah, there's an audiobook for Moments. Yeah, there's an audiobook for Moments Like This already. And then I'm biting at the bit to get started on Where the Sun Rises. Probably, I would assume January, yeah.
Right on. And also from Andrea, how did you two meet?
Oh.
Why don't you tell the story this time, Anna?
Yeah, I mean, we've told this before, but you know, it was basically Chris is a neighbor of a friend of mine that I was on the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Board with, and Javier's from LA, and he's a great connector. And I asked him if he knew of anybody who would like to turn my books. I had written 6 books already into film. One was optioned for film, and I just had the slight taste of like looking at scripts, and I thought, oh, this is what I'd rather do than write a book. So I said, is there anybody who wants to read my book and turn it into a script? And he said, well, my neighbor is Chris Polaha, and I see him when I'm walking the dog, and maybe one day when I see him while I'm walking the dog, I'll ask him. And he saw Chris, right? Chris, he saw you and mentioned me, and he texted me back and said, hey, Chris says he's going to call you. You guys can get on a call. And I really didn't believe that was happening. I'm like, yeah, okay. And I walk away from it. And a couple of days later, there's Chris scheduling a Zoom call, and we got on the phone, hit it off. He was very open about the industry, taught me a few things about how we can get this done and working. And just like that, on a whim, I said, well, I'm kind of writing a series in Hawaii. Would you like to co-write it with me? And I think the rest is history. You can jump in, Chris.
I'll just say my whole life is a series of auditions and pitches. I walk into rooms filled with strangers and I say, this is what I got for you. Whether it's my interpretation of a character as an actor for an audition, or whether it's a pitch and an idea. And when I proposed to Anna this idea of creating our own IP, which is intellectual property, which is what a book is at the end of the day for Hollywood, in Hollywood terms, she didn't have to say yes. Like so many times before in my life, the map was clear to me, but I needed somebody to say yes. And I needed somebody to be like, and Anna has invited me into her world as a writer. She's written 6 books under Christine Bray. She's got a book that's coming out. Is it going to be out next year?
Yeah, it's out next year.
And it's this, gift that she's given me, because it very easily could have been like, you know what, you're an actor and you got your lane, and I'm a CFO and I'm doing my novels as well, and I've got my lane, and thank you for the information, and off we go. And that could have been it. It could have been a Zoom call and done. And what's crazy is I was like, well, I mean, if you ever wanted to write a Christmas movie, like we could write a story, a love story, we could get it published. And if it has a little audience, we would then take that book into Hallmark and we can say, here's the IP. And we would own it all the way from the page to the screen. And it was, in my mind, I was thinking small. I mean, I just thought one book, one and done. And then Anna, she didn't even blink an eye. And she said, well, I'm working on this series and it's 5 books and they all take place in Hawaii. And I jumped in. I was like, well, my kid was born in Hawaii. I know it well. And she's like, would you like to co-author with me? And I remember just kind of, I mean, it really was in life. There are moments that you have that you connect the dots of your life with. And Anna Gomez, there was like a supernova, a dot, all of a sudden a dot appeared on my timeline. And it was the moment that we agreed to collaborate together.
Yeah.
It really is special.
Yeah, and the next time we met, we were wearing matching shirts, and we had a contract signed in like 3 days. I mean, I think, again, I'm saying this again, and as we end this near the end of this interview, things happen for a reason, and this is a collaboration that we always talk about, how we never take it for granted, because it's special and it's different. I've collaborated with others. I work in my way of life is collaborating every day with people. Chris has collaborated artistically with other people as well. And it's different and it's special, and we want to keep it that way. So we'll just keep going, finishing our books.
So we don't want to talk about it too much. We just
Yeah. Not give in to any of all these things.
Well, I cannot wait to see what the 2 of you produce going forward. And do any of our friends in the audience have any final questions? If so, go ahead and put that in the Q&A now. If I don't see any Little bubbles
Who do
popping
we have?
up.
We've got Gail here. Hi, Gail.
Let's
We've got
see.
Andrea. We got Lisa.
Yeah.
Hi, Lisa. Naomi. We got Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. We just had a great time in Reno, Stephanie, and some of the friends. Mimi.
Yeah, people
Palmer.
are here from all over. It's so good to
Yeah.
Zoom see all of you.
And Kathy A. Good. We got some nice, good folks up here today.
Absolutely. Anything that you, Chris, or you, Anna, would like to say to the good people here to close us out?
Thank you. We're so grateful.
And I hope, Milo, we get a chance to come up to Seattle, maybe for book 3, Anna. We can actually darken the doorway of the bookstore itself and be there in person.
Yeah, come pay us a visit. You're all invited. It's
We could do
it's gonna be a
Seattle
party.
in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, this is new to us because last year we were virtual. So
Absolutely.
we had 2 signing events. We have 1 more and we're exhausted.
You're
Yeah.
already like, this
We're
is
like,
awesome.
beat.
It's
Like,
a lot. You
oh,
have to like do your arm exercises so you can be like ready to write your signature. I'm seeing here in the chat, yes, come to Seattle. So I'm just saying, come down
That'd be great.
anytime. It's been so wonderful to have you both today. And thank you everyone for making it out this evening. This is going to be upstreamed on our YouTube channel if you want to come and take a look. I heard there was some tech difficulties, so if you want to come and revisit, we're going to be here for you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much and take good care.
Thank you, Milo.
thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having us. Bye.